Alright, let's take a minute and look at some of the contents of G-Class Republic. It's a new anime cyberpunk, as I like to call it, J-Punk role-playing game by me, Total Party Skills. Got a couple source books out for it, but this right here is the complete all-in-one core rulebook. You don't need anything else in order to be able to run and play in this game. So far, the source books I've been putting out, I got one that's kind of a sampler of some notable planets in the setting and some adventures to go with them. Got a source book for the main core capital world of Jickless, and then there's another setting source book coming down the pipe describing a whole entire quadrant of the setting, with lots and lots of worlds and characters and stuff. But here we go. Now the first couple chapters are your introduction to the setting and the basic overview of the rule system. Those are both viewable on the preview on TTRPG, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. The rest of the game, Chapter 3 is your character templates, Chapter 4 is your character abilities, if they happen to know martial arts or psychic abilities or mystical arts. Character enhancements are stuff like bionic upgrades, cybernetic implants. Player characters begin the game with an edge, which is a vehicle or a robot, a spaceship, maybe an alien pet or a riding animal that they get to design for themselves. They don't always automatically will have their edge. If they lose their edge, like it gets destroyed or someone steals it, or if it's an animal and gets killed, they do not automatically regain a new edge. They have to go through the trouble in-game of replacing it somehow. Got a section on some exclusive non-player character templates, and then a bunch of stuff on the actual setting itself. This is the first, I would say, dare I say, actual real setting I've created that's not just, based on public domain historical things that anyone can play with. The basic premise is that you have a science fiction, space opera, cyberpunky kind of society that's arisen out of a group of human beings that were abducted from Earth 6,000 years ago by a race of alien insects that were just using them as basic labor. After a couple thousand years, they finally figured out how to read the aliens' programming, figured out how to use their technology and science, turned it against them, overthrew them, and now they've just kind of been stuck out there in an unknown part of the galaxy. They don't know where their homeworld is, and they've spent the last 4,000 years just kind of making do and building their own society on their own alternate timeline. There's a lot of similarities. You could blame it on convergent evolution, or just to make the setting more understandable. There's a lot of things about Jickless civilization that mirror our own rather closely, but then there are odd little things here and there that seem to be missing because they just never had a need to develop that in their history. They don't really have classic airplanes or helicopters, for instance, because they learned how to use spaceships before they even had cars. So they've never really had a need to design aerodynamic propeller-driven aircraft or anything like that. They have submarines and they have amphibious vehicles, but they've never really developed boats. The idea of just having a vessel that only sits on top of the water and goes nowhere else just is a foreign idea to them, because they never had to go through all those stages of development of sea travel and stuff. They were thrown into a technological society that's ahead of where we are now on Earth, and in some ways they've been a little stagnant because they haven't really pushed it too much further beyond where they originally inherited it. They've just refined it and made it more their own. You get it's kind of what I'm calling a second edition light of my rule system. Most of it's the same. There are some new skills, and you basically just try to streamline the whole thing. Also, because of the fact that there are robots and bionic characters, there are also some alternative attributes and status that go with those kinds of characters, as is described in the various templates. But with the whole thing: experience, combat, weapons, recovery, repairs. Anyway, the character templates, these are your basic formats for all player characters and most of your NPCs. They're all designed to be very modular, build your own concept. Not quite a species or race, because a lot of the templates are human templates, but they're distinct subcategories that's not just like a professional or a social class kind of designation. The basic most ones are the citizens. They don't have any special abilities. They don't start off with a bunch of cybernetics, but they do get more skill points than any other template at pretty much all levels. They will always have the highest number of skills, so you can kind of build any kind of civilian, non-heavily modified human character off your citizen template. Martial artists are included. These are more than just your classic, Shaolin monk or ninja kind of martial artists. This also includes stuff like starfighter pilots and mech warriors, and anyone who's just dedicated a large chunk of their life towards martial training qualifies as a martial artist, and so it gives you a bit more variety on the build. It's not just playing a monk in space, although it's possible to play the monk in space with the martial artist build. Cyborgs, they're humans who have had brain implants that allow them to have psychic abilities, and also gives them AI enhanced intelligence and the ability to upload skill programs and stuff from artificial skills. But they're not a full cyborg, as in like they're the meat and bones of their body have by and large not been replaced. This is purely just enhancements to their spinal tissue, brain, implants, stuff like that. But it's one of the only ways to have psychic abilities built into a character. The humans that the G-Class are descended from did not have any of those gene traits that allow for psychic phenomenon on other populations on Earth and some of my other games. So they have to induce it artificially or use Psytech devices. Basically, cyborgs just implant the Psytech device directly into the neural tissue, and that allows them to develop their own palette of powers instead of just only being able to do what the Psytech device allows them to do. Bionic characters, those are just people your more classic cyborg types who've had large chunks of their body replaced with mechanisms. Bionics have been around in the setting for a long time, so people are pretty casual about it. It's not a newfangled thing by any stretch of the imagination. Vampires, psychic entities that have taken over human beings, are there in the setting. They're fairly, minor function. You wouldn't describe it as a vampire game. But thematically it fits, and also there's things that go on in the larger Total Party universe with vampires that having their presence out in space kind of helps explain some things or ties stuff together. But I wouldn't call them a central feature. They're an optional part of the setting, and that's why they're there as player characters. But there's not going to be a whole lot of vampire issues going on in the greater plots of the setting, because the vampires don't have that much influence, because humanity is aware of their presence, because they're not shocked at the idea of psychic alien entities having possessed human bodies. The Kaibyo are your classic anime cat-girl race. The 70% of the Kaibyo are female and 30% are male, and for the most part the males aren't really allowed. They're not technically forced to stay in their home worlds, but they're incredibly discouraged from leaving, whereas the Kaibyo are encouraged to go out and leave their star systems and go live amongst humanity and all that kind of stuff. They're low-key a bit darker than they appear at first, especially in the book I'm currently writing, where I describe most of their star systems, and so you get a bit of a clearer hint as to what their society is like. But they're very much like a friend of humanity kind of species. Ogres, giants, 16-foot tall humanoids. They were involved in the enslavement of humankind, even though they themselves weren't the ones who had enslaved humans and forced them to work into the mines. But they've been a recurrent enemy for the G-Class humans ever since they overthrew the insects. Recent events in the setting with the invasion of space worms taking over a good chunk of ogre territory has finally forced a military alliance between the ogres and the humans, but it's still very uneasy. Humans don't trust ogres, and ogres look down on humans, literally and figuratively, of course. The reason that mechs are in the setting is because of the ogres. Ogres wearing power armor were, obviously a big military threat in early human versus ogre conflicts. And in order to be able to combat power armor equipped ogres, basically the humans took ogre power armor and just filled in the hollow empty sections with motors and engines and actuators and a pilot compartment and stuff. And so essentially mechs in the setting were designed based off of ogre power armor to combat ogres in power armor. Simulations are alien cyborgs. They're not human. No one's really quite sure what they are, including the simulations, because for some reason they've never bothered to keep that record transferred in their programming from generation to generation. They can be designed to look like all sorts of things, although, the ones that are interacting with humans in the Chickless Republic setting are simulations designed to look human. A little bit more than an android, a little bit less than bionic. There's a lot of, mystery built around them that they themselves don't fully understand, so that way they can still be player characters without having to come with knowledge that would spoil the mystery, so to say. Mystics, a lost tribe of humans that had got separated a little bit after the rebellion against the insects. A ship got lost in hyperspace and crash landed quite some distance away from the rest of the star systems that the Chickless are on, and so they've developed their own thread of civilization in the time since, where instead of embracing technology, they've resurrected mysticism and druidic religion. And recently in the setting, roughly a year before the game starts, the Mystics came back in contact with the Chickless, and now some of them are wandering through the Chickless Republic as, honored guests, this long-lost ambassador from this long-lost, branch of humanity, not really realizing yet that the Mystics don't necessarily have the best of intentions for the Chickless. Because they are religious fanatics, and a lot of that religious fanaticism is based around the idea that they have to reunite humankind so they can all return back to Earth and then completely abandon technology. So those are your basic character templates within which you can, design all sorts of concepts, vocations, jobs, character types. Martial artists, cyborgs, vampires, and mystics have access to special abilities, martial arts abilities, which basically, by combining a martial skill with one of their other skills, they can unlock certain special traits. Got a bunch for martial arts, got a bunch for psychic abilities, and a bunch for all your mystic type stuff, your spells, your invocations, your rituals, your alchemical potions, all that good stuff. A little domination and necromancy never hurt anybody, I say. Got a section on your character enhancements. Basically, player characters can, if they earn enough money, can purchase up new, attributes or buy new skill points or get other kinds of implants and such if they've had the basic bionic conversion in the first place. But this allows you can have a citizen character start off as a citizen, and then they could buy themselves into becoming a cyborg or a bionic character, or have it be a result of some sort of terrible trauma from a battle that went bad or something, and then they wake up having been cyborg. Character edges includes robots, vehicles, mechs, spaceships, alien pets, and alien mounts. So, design your own little robot buddy. You can have a robot made. You can design your own vehicle. Basically, you can do cars, you can do tanks, you can do submarines, you can do amphibious kind of boats. Mechs are real modular. When wouldn't you like to be able to design your own mech and have it be, you know, to your specifications of height and strength and what kind of weapons it has and what kind of crew accommodations? Do you need a co-pilot? Do you have like a little bunk area tucked into his chest somewhere? Or is it just small and basically just glorified power armor anyway? And like with cybernetics, you can upgrade your mech with money. Same thing with spaceships. Everything from like a little tiny fighter craft all the way up to you could try to have a capital ship, albeit at starting point it's going to be like largely empty and unfinished. But that gives you your character something to earn money towards, to set up your big old ship. Alien pets. And then your alien riding animals. A chicken, a dinosaur. And we got a couple non-player character templates and just some overall notes on making non-player characters. Kaiju. What's the point of having like an anime-inspired cyberpunk space opera type thing if you don't get to have your giant robots go, you know, bash the face in of some giant lizard creature? Well, that's why we got Kaiju right here. Space worms, they're an insidious alien threat that is, you know, one of the core, you know, bad guys of the setting at the time that the game takes place in. And entities are just all your basic, you know, psychic aliens, ghosts, all that kind of stuff are all kind of wrapped together in the general category of entity. And after that, we get to the actual setting itself, where we discuss the history of the Jickless Republic, its society, the people who live in it. You get a timeline stretching all the way back to when the humans were first taken from Earth, up through the rebellion of Hondar and Uma, and the early Republic area, like series of wars between humans and ogres on repeated occasions, and then we enter into the modern period. Some notes on what the general state of technology is like in the setting, Jickless religion, how their government works, and then we break down the setting. The political units are called hegemons, not political parties. It's not a specific one person is not the hegemon. The hegemon is the name for the whole party, and they're all based around kind of basically like a regional coalition within the greater sphere of the Republic. And it also like lists off the planets that come in each one of these areas. So you got the Jickless Core, the Crusader Corridor, the Old Frontier, the Blood Price, the Border Worlds, the Wedge, Siege Space, the Outer Corridor, and the Refuge Corridor. Also talks about the sector networks. The networks are criminal organizations that used to be corporations that were basically driven out of a business when the Jickless Republic created a bunch of guilds to replace them, and so now they're basically running the black markets on various areas of the galaxy. And then there's some stuff on the actual guilds that replaced them, military standards of, you know, how soldiers and warriors of the setting behave and what's expected of them. Then we got a section on the worlds controlled by the ogres, and ogre society and history, Balor's Remnant, some stuff about the newly introduced mechs built by ogres for ogre pilots that are even larger than the current mechs being built by humans. They're super threatening. I mean, it's like having a walking starship to fight. However, they're only usable in lighter or low gravity environments. So some planets are relatively safe from them just because they can't move their own weight around. And then we got some stuff on some of the other alien species, the Kaiveo cluster, and their world cat girl society, and industrial space where the simulations come from. And the church, which is where the mystics come from. Their own little timeline, alternate setting. The church has some alien species of their own in their territory that are not commonplace within the main bulk of the Jickless Republic setting, like your mirages, your Holderfolken, and bees. We got some stuff on the vampire cults, the Seraphim and the Balsaraf, Akuma, Nephilim, some like dead worlds from dead civilizations, the remnants of the old Sphinx civilization, a psychic star system called Leuchten Star, and the worms, and what's going on with the worms. And we end off with some rules on space travel, hyperspace travel rules, environmental conditions, and that's it. So, that's what you get if you pick up a copy of G-Class Republic. You can run virtually any kind of cyberpunk type adventure and a lot of different types of space opera kind of adventures, from both your big epic scaled save the world, save the universe shit down to your more personal street crime or just running a crew of smugglers or merchants going from world to world doing their thing. It's intentionally supposed to be scalable and versatile, like a good role-playing game should be, so check it out, and thanks for watching.
I think the girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their nails done. Girls with their nails done now. I think the girls with their nails done now.